So what we said is that external costs, whether they're in production or consumption, what they do is they lead to an overuse of a product, overproduction or overconsumption and so on. So in a mixed economy, the government would want to do something about this. There's been a misallocation of resources, so the government's going to want to deal with the welfare loss. It's going to want to try and reduce output or consumption, reduce supply or reduce demand, reduce the equilibrium output to the socially optimum level. So where external costs are present, in a mixed economy, the goal of the government is going to be to decrease the equilibrium output. And we've talked elsewhere about the ways in which a government can approach market failures. And we said there are three broad approaches. So one approach is legislation. So the government could pass laws. So in the case of consumption externalities, suppose we're thinking about kind of overuse of cars. Well, the government could, create bus lanes. The government could, in the case of tobacco, the government can impose age restrictions. You can't smoke until you're 18. Something along those lines, or you can't smoke in public places. Or looking at the production side of things, the government could pass regulations on what materials you're allowed to use. So many years ago, refrigerators, fridges, they used these things called CFCs, which were burning a hole in the ozone layer. So the government said, right, you can't use those in fridges anymore. So one is to pass laws. Trouble with laws is they have to be enforced. Especially if you've got global issues, the dangers of imposing laws is that companies will relocate to somewhere where laws aren't, and that's some of the standard issues with this type of thing. Secondly, what you can try to do is to inform consumers. Sometimes the issue is that people aren't aware of the external costs; they're not aware of the damage that they're doing. And if you look at some of the recent climate process, there does seem to be an increasing awareness of the damage that's being done as a result of external costs. There's been pressure put on retailers recently to make sure that products are kind of rainforest safe and so on. In the case of tobacco, what the government's done, obviously, is put warnings on packets. In the case of alcohol, it's you're now required to put the number of units of alcohol that are on it. So therefore, consumers can make better informed decisions. And we said the third category of things is you can make financial interventions. So the government can, and that's essentially going to mean either taxes or subsidies. So either we increase the cost to the producer or we reduce the cost to the producer, depending on whether we want to increase or decrease production. In this case, obviously, you're not going to subsidise the product itself, but you might subsidise alternatives. So in the case of smoking, you might subsidise, cigarette patches, nicotine patches that give you, that help people to stop smoking, or in the case of beer, you might try and make sure that soft drinks, healthy soft drinks are lower priced. But most often the approach is to tax the thing, that you're trying to reduce the consumption of. So you impose a tax that will increase the firm's costs because it's the firm that pays the tax, force them to increase price, and therefore reduce output to the socially optimum level. So what we're going to do next is we're going to look at taxes. How do we use taxes to deal with external costs? And then we're going to look at a particularly specific example of something that can be used to deal with production externalities, which is called tradable pollution permits. But we'll come to those next.